The bell above the door of Pine and Paw's Grooming chimed softly as Caleb Morris stepped inside, leash wrapped carefully around his wrist. The shop smelled like shampoo and wet fur, sharp and clean. Hair clippings dotted the tiled floor despite the early hour. A row of metal grooming tables lined the back wall, and the steady hum of dryers filled the space like distant wind. At the end of the leash stood Buddy. Buddy was a medium-sized mixed-breed dog, tan with white patches, ears slightly too big for his head. His tail was tucked low, his body tense, eyes darting from corner to corner. Every new sound made him flinch. Caleb crouched instinctively, resting a hand on Buddy's back. "It's okay," he murmured. "We're just getting cleaned up." Caleb was black, early 30s, quiet in the way people become when they're used to being read incorrectly. He'd rescued Buddy 6 months earlier from a shelter that listed him as anxious but manageable. Since then, Caleb had learned Buddy's tells, the way his paws trembled on slick floors, the way his breathing sped up around unfamiliar people. That was why Caleb had chosen Pine and Paws. Good reviews, friendly website, gentle care for every pet, the tagline promised. Behind the counter stood Megan Whitfield, the groomer on duty. White, late 20s, hair pulled back tight, apron already dusted with fur. She glanced up briefly when Caleb entered, then back down at her tablet. "Name?" she asked. "Buddy," Caleb replied. "He's nervous, so if you could take it slow." Megan sighed softly, not quite hiding it. "They all are." Caleb paused. "He's not aggressive," he added quickly. "Just anxious. Loud noises, sudden handling." Megan cut him off with a quick smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We do this all day." Buddy whimpered quietly, pressing closer to Caleb's leg. Megan looked down at the dog, then back at Caleb. "He's not biting, is he?" "No," Caleb said. "Never." "Good," Megan replied, "because we don't have time for drama dogs today." The words stung more than Caleb expected. "I can stay for a minute if that helps him settle," Caleb offered. Megan shook her head. "Owner's hovering actually makes it worse." She opened the gate behind the counter. "I'll take him." Buddy froze. His paws locked in place, nails scraping faintly against the tile as Megan reached for the leash. His breathing quickened, chest heaving. "It's okay," Caleb said softly, rubbing Buddy's ears. "You're okay," Megan frowned. "See, he's already acting up." "He's scared," Caleb said. Megan gave a short laugh. "Same thing." She tugged the leash gently. Buddy resisted, a low whine escaping his throat. "Oh my God," Megan muttered. "He's fine. Stop babying him." Caleb straightened. "Please don't pull him." Megan rolled her eyes, just slightly, but enough. "Sir," she said, her tone sharpening, "if you don't trust professionals, you shouldn't bring him here." Caleb felt heat rise in his chest. He looked around the waiting area, empty except for a bench against the wall and a small sign that read, "For your pet's safety, this area is under video surveillance." A small black camera blinked quietly in the corner. "I trust professionals," Caleb said carefully. "I just don't want him shamed for being scared." Megan snorted. "Dogs don't have feelings like that." Buddy let out a sharp bark, more panic than aggression. Megan jerked the leash. "See? Difficult." Caleb stepped forward. "That's enough." Megan pulled Buddy behind the gate, away from Caleb's reach. "He'll calm down once you're gone." Buddy twisted, looking back desperately, eyes wide. Caleb's stomach dropped. "Please," he said. "If he gets overwhelmed, call me. I'm serious." Megan waved a hand dismissively. "We'll handle it." The gate closed with a metallic click. Buddy's whine echoed briefly, then disappeared into the back room. Caleb stood there for a moment, staring at the closed gate, unease settling deep in his gut. Something about the interaction didn't sit right. Not just Megan's words, but the way she'd said them. The way Buddy's fear had been brushed off as inconvenience. As Caleb turned to leave, he glanced once more at the small camera in the corner of the waiting room, its blue light steady and unblinking. He didn't know it yet, but that camera was about to capture far more than anyone inside Pine and Paws expected, and once the footage left that room, no one would be able to pretend they hadn't seen it. Caleb didn't leave right away. He stood just outside the shop door for a few seconds, leash still looped around his wrist out of habit, staring at the reflection in the glass. Buddy's reflection wasn't there anymore, and the absence felt heavier than it should have. "You're overreacting," he told himself. He had heard that phrase enough times to recognize how easily it slid into his own thoughts. Still, his chest felt tight as he walked down the block and sat in his car instead of driving away. He turned the engine off. The groomer had said it would take about an hour. Caleb told himself he'd give it 15 minutes. If Buddy settled, he'd leave. If not, he wasn't sure what he'd do. He just knew he didn't want to be too far. Inside Pine and Paws, the atmosphere changed the moment the gate closed behind Caleb. Megan's posture relaxed. The customer-facing smile disappeared like it had never been there. "Unbelievable," she muttered, tugging the leash again as Buddy hesitated at the doorway to the grooming area. Some people just project their own anxiety onto their dogs. Buddy's paws skidded on the floor as he tried to back up. His ears flattened completely now, tail tucked so tight it nearly disappeared against his belly. He let out a low, broken whine, his body trembling. Megan rolled her eyes more openly this time. "Oh, stop! You're fine." She clipped the leash to a hook on the grooming table and reached for the dryer hanging on the wall. The sudden metallic clatter made Buddy flinch hard, his nails scraping loudly as he tried to jump down. "Seriously?" Megan snapped. "It's just noise." Buddy barked again, high, panicked. Megan leaned closer, her voice sharp. "You know what? This is why people don't train their dogs properly. They come in like this, acting like the world's ending." She didn't hit him. She didn't strike him. But her hands were rougher than they needed to be, her grip firmer, her patience non-existent. Buddy shrank in on himself, head lowered, eyes darting toward the doorway where Caleb had disappeared. In the waiting room, the small camera continued to record. It caught the sounds clearly. The raised voice, the mocking tone, the word dramatic, used more than once. And when Megan stepped back into the waiting area to grab towels, the camera caught her too, laughing softly to herself, shaking her head. "Unbelievable," she said to no one. "Dogs like this are such a pain." Back in his car, Caleb's phone buzzed, a notification from the grooming app. Buddy's grooming has started. Caleb stared at the screen, then at the shop window. Something was wrong. He opened the shop's website again, scrolling past the cheerful photos, the smiling staff bios. At the bottom of the page, beneath the booking confirmation, a small line of text caught his eye. "For transparency and safety, our waiting area is continuously monitored by video." Caleb's heart beat faster. He didn't know why that line stood out to him. He didn't know yet that the footage wouldn't stay private, that someone else, someone who had already raised concerns about the shop, had access to archived clips. All he knew was that Buddy had gone quiet. Too quiet. And somewhere inside Pine and Paws, a camera was recording a version of events that sounded nothing like gentle care. Caleb couldn't shake the feeling. He sat in the car longer than he meant to, eyes fixed on the shop's front door, replaying Megan's tone in his head. Not the words exactly, but the ease with which she'd dismissed Buddy's fear. The way irritation had come first, empathy never. When another 10 minutes passed with no update, Caleb opened the grooming app again. No messages, no photos, nothing. He locked his phone and exhaled slowly. Inside the shop, Buddy was no longer barking. That should have been a good sign. It wasn't. In the grooming area, Megan worked faster now, movements sharp and impatient. Buddy stood rigid on the table, legs locked, muscles trembling. His eyes were wide and glassy, breathing shallow and rapid. "Stop shaking!" Megan snapped. "You're making this harder." She turned the dryer back on. The roar filled the room instantly. Buddy yelped, a short, desperate sound, and tried to crouch, slipping on the slick surface. The leash caught him before he could fall, jerking his neck just enough to make him whine again. "Oh my God," Megan said, exasperated. "You're not being hurt." She leaned closer, lowering her voice, not to soothe, but to scold. "Big dog like you, acting like a baby," she said. "Your owner really did a number on you." Buddy's ears flattened completely. He didn't fight now. He didn't bark. He froze. To Megan, it looked like compliance. To anyone who knew dogs, it was shut down. In the waiting room, the camera caught the sound of the dryer through the wall. It caught Megan's voice clearly enough to pick up her words. Sharp, sarcastic, impatient. And it caught something else. The way Buddy's earlier whines disappeared. The way the noise didn't stop, but the dog did. The footage was stored automatically, time-stamped, archived, and reviewed. Because Pine and Paws had already been flagged once before by a former employee who'd filed a complaint about handling practices. As part of that follow-up, a remote consultant periodically reviewed waiting room footage for customer experience and staff conduct. That afternoon, Claire Nguyen, the consultant, was reviewing clips on her laptop at home. She wasn't looking for Buddy, she was scanning audio. Her cursor stopped. She rewound the clip, listened again. Her brow furrowed. "That's not okay," she murmured. She adjusted the volume and played it once more, isolating the groomer's voice. The words weren't violent, they weren't obscene, but they were unmistakably contemptuous, and they were directed at a terrified animal. Claire pulled up earlier clips. Same groomer, similar tone, different dog, a pattern. Back in his car, Caleb finally couldn't take it anymore. He got out and walked back toward the shop, heart pounding. He hadn't planned what he'd say, he just knew he needed to see Buddy. As he reached for the door handle, his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. "Hello?" "Hi," a woman's voice said. "Is this Caleb Morris?" "Yes." "My name is Claire Nguyen. I'm calling regarding your dog, Buddy, who is currently at Pine and Paws Grooming." Caleb's stomach dropped. "Is he okay?" There was a pause, just long enough to be honest. "I'm calling because I've been reviewing video and audio from the shop's waiting area," Claire said carefully. "And I think you should come inside, now." Caleb didn't hesitate. "I'm at the door," he said. "Good," Claire replied, "because what's on that footage shouldn't stay private." As Caleb pushed the door open, the bell chimed again. Soft, innocent. Inside, Megan was still working, and the camera was still recording. But now, the story it had captured was no longer contained within four walls. It was about to go public. Megan was halfway through shutting off the dryer when she heard the bell. She didn't look up at first. Customers sometimes wandered back in early. She reached for a towel, already annoyed. Then she heard Caleb's voice. "Buddy!" Everything stopped. Buddy's head lifted instantly. His ears twitched. His body, rigid moments ago, trembled harder, but this time it wasn't fear alone. It was recognition. Caleb was already moving toward the gate, eyes scanning the room, landing on Buddy's hunched frame on the table. "What's going on?" Caleb demanded, voice tight. Megan turned, startled. "Sir, you can't be back here." "Get him down," Caleb said. "Now." Buddy let out a small, broken sound and tried to step toward Caleb, slipping slightly. Caleb reached him in 2 strides, hands gentle, steady, wrapping around Buddy's chest and lifting him down himself. Buddy pressed into him immediately, shaking. Caleb felt it, the rapid heartbeat, the shallow breaths. He closed his eyes for half a second, swallowing hard. Megan crossed her arms. "He was being difficult. I was handling it." "No," Caleb said quietly. "You weren't." Before Megan could respond, her phone buzzed on the counter. Then the shop phone rang. Megan glanced between them, irritation flickering into unease. She picked up the phone. "Pine and Paws." Her face changed mid-sentence. Caleb didn't hear what was said on the other end, but he didn't need to. Megan's shoulders stiffened. Her jaw tightened. She hung up slowly. "Who was that?" Caleb asked. Megan didn't answer. The door chimed again. This time it was Claire Nguyen. She stepped inside calmly, tablet in hand, eyes already scanning the room, not for Buddy, but for Megan. "I'm with the consulting team reviewing customer experience footage," Claire said evenly. "We need to talk." Megan scoffed weakly. "This is ridiculous." Claire didn't raise her voice. She simply turned the tablet so Megan could see. The screen showed the waiting room footage, the timestamps, the audio waveforms. Megan's voice, clear, unmistakable, dramatic. Such a pain. "Stop acting like a baby." Caleb's grip tightened around Buddy as he watched. His jaw clenched, not in surprise, but in confirmation. Claire looked up. "This footage violates your handling policy and your own website's claims." Megan opened her mouth, then closed it. "You don't understand." "I understand exactly," Claire said. "And so will the owner." Caleb finally spoke again. His voice was steady, but it carried weight. "I trusted you," he said. "I trusted this place." Megan looked away. Buddy whined softly and buried his face deeper into Caleb's jacket. "I want him released from the service," Caleb continued, "immediately, and I want a copy of everything recorded today." Claire nodded. "You'll have it." The story didn't stay inside Pine and Paws. Within days, the footage, edited only to protect other customers, was shared publicly after Caleb consented. It spread quickly, not because it showed violence, but because it showed something quieter. Cruelty dressed up as professionalism, fear dismissed as inconvenience, mockery where care was promised. The shop issued a statement, then another. Megan was removed from client-facing work, then from the schedule entirely. Policies were revisited. Weeks later, Caleb sat on the floor of his apartment, Buddy curled beside him, head resting on Caleb's thigh. The dog still startled at loud noises, still hated dryers, but his tail wagged again. Caleb scratched behind Buddy's ears and smiled faintly. "You were never difficult," he murmured. "You were just scared." Buddy sighed and pressed closer. On Caleb's phone, a message notification popped up. Another stranger thanking him for speaking up, for sharing the footage, for naming what so many people had felt but couldn't prove. Caleb locked the screen and set the phone aside. The camera hadn't punished anyone, it had simply told the truth. And sometimes that's enough to change who gets believed and who doesn't.